Even our neighbor is better than you, my sister said, laughing when she lived in the apartment I paid for. Everyone laughed, but the laughter disappeared when I announced. I should have stopped helping Rebecca months ago. But I kept telling myself that she was my sister. Family helps family, right? That's what our parents used to say. Even when it wasn't fair. Even when it was totally one-sided. She and her husband, Chris, were struggling financially, and somehow I became their personal ATM. At first it was small things, helping with groceries, paying a bill here and there. Then, before I knew it, I was paying for their entire apartment because they just needed time to get back on their feet. That time stretched into months. Thousands of dollars. Not once did she thank me. Not once did she acknowledge how much I was doing for her. Instead, she acted like she was doing me a favor by letting me help. And if I ever mentioned money, even casually, she'd roll her eyes and brush it off like I was the one being ridiculous. I knew she was selfish. I knew she didn't value me. But nothing prepared me for the way she humiliated me at that dinner. It was supposed to be a nice evening. She and Chris were going to have a family dinner at their apartment, which I was still paying for, by the way. But of course they couldn't afford to actually host it, so I ended up paying for everything. The food, the drinks, even some decorations that Rebecca insisted on because she wanted the place to look presentable. As if she had any right to worry about appearances when she was barely keeping her life together. Our parents were there, along with our younger brother Ethan. Everything started out fine. The wine was flowing, the conversation was easy, and for a brief moment I thought maybe, just maybe, Rebecca would show some gratitude. But then she started. At first, it was little jabs. She teased me about being single, about working too much, about not having any fun. It was nothing new. Rebecca had made me the punchline of her jokes for years. Usually I let it go. But tonight she didn't stop. "George, when was the last time you even went on a date?" she asked with a grin. Chris chuckled. "Yeah, man, you gotta get out there." I took a sip of my drink and ignored her. But Rebecca wasn't done. "Maybe you should ask our neighbor for advice," she said, nudging Chris. "Even he's better than you." And just like that, they all started laughing. My own family. Something inside me snapped. I put down my glass and felt a strange sense of calm come over me. Then I looked directly at them and said, "Yes, I'm sure he seems better. Considering you're sleeping with him." The laughter stopped immediately. For a moment, the only sound in the apartment was the low hum of the refrigerator. Everyone just sat there, staring at me as if I had just set the table on fire. Rebecca's face twisted into something between shock and anger. Chris blinked a few times, confused, his fork still halfway to his mouth. My mother put down her wine glass. Ethan actually gasped, like we were in a movie. Then Rebecca let out this fake little laugh. Mom's words hit me like a slap. I just sat there and stared at her. "Are you serious?" She crossed her arms. "What did you think would happen, George? That you'd humiliate your sister and we'd all applaud?" I looked around the table. Ethan was still frozen, his eyes darting between all of us as if he were watching a car accident. Rebecca was wiping her face, smearing her mascara. She didn't even look at me. But it was my dad's face that really surprised me. He wasn't angry. He just looked tired. "You had no right," Mom continued. "That was between Rebecca and Chris. You had no business butting in." I let out a sharp laugh. "Are you serious? I paid for that damn apartment. I sent her thousands of dollars while she was running around with another guy behind her husband's back, and somehow I'm the bad guy." Rebecca finally looked up. Her expression was cold. "Nobody asked you to." I clenched my jaw. "Excuse me?" She sniffed. "No one forced you to help, George. You did it because you wanted to. And now you act like I owe you for it?" She laughed bitterly. "You're pathetic." Something inside me snapped. "You know what? You're right. No one forced me to help. That was my mistake. And I won't make it again." I reached into my wallet and pulled out a folded check I had brought with me, another $2,000 I had planned to give her. I held it up to her face for a second, then tore it in half. Rebecca's eyes widened. George! I tore it again. Then again. Then I dropped the pieces onto my plate. You're on your own. The room fell silent. Even Ethan looked shocked. Rebecca's face turned red. You can't just dash. I can. I stood up. And I just did. I turned to leave, but my mom grabbed my arm. Hard. You don't turn your back on family. Her voice was deep, warning. I pulled my arm away. Maybe families shouldn't take advantage of each other. I made it halfway to the door before my father finally spoke. His voice was calm. George. Just, let's all calm down. I turned to him. Dad, are you really okay with this? With what she did? He hesitated. I could see it in his face. He wasn't okay with it. But then Mom shot him a look, and just like that, his shoulders slumped. She's still our daughter, he muttered. Unbelievable. I shook my head and left. I didn't get very far. I had just stepped into the hallway when I heard someone running after me. It was Ethan. Dude! I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. Rebecca's affair. Mom's reaction. Ethan's whispered confession. It was all swirling around in my brain, and no matter how much I tried to shut it out, one thought kept creeping back in. Who the hell was Mom's mystery guy? By morning, I had made up my mind. I needed to find out. I called Ethan. Take me to where you saw them. Ethan hesitated. Dude, I don't know. Ethan. My voice was firm. I need to see it for myself. He sighed. Fine. Meet me in an hour. We drove in silence. Ethan was gripping the steering wheel too tightly, his knuckles white. He pulled into the parking lot of the coffee shop and pointed to a corner booth by the window. That's where I saw them the first time. I stared at it. A normal coffee shop. Normal people inside. But my mother had sat in that booth, holding hands with a man who wasn't my father. Where did you see them the second time? I asked. Ethan hesitated. You really want to go there? I turned to him. Yes. A few minutes later, we pulled into a quiet parking lot near a hiking trail. This is where they were. Ethan gestured toward a silver sedan parked near the edge of the lot. I frowned. Wait. That car? Ethan followed my gaze. The same silver sedan was parked in the exact same spot as before. I felt my pulse pick up. He's here. Ethan's eyes widened. Oh shit. We sat there, frozen. Then, before I could second-guess myself, I got out of the car. Dude, what the hell are you doing? Ethan whisper yelled behind me. I ignored him and marched straight toward the sedan. As I got closer, I saw two people in the front seat. Mom. And a man I definitely didn't recognize. They were talking. She was smiling. He reached over and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, and she leaned into it. My stomach twisted. I knocked on the window. Mom's head snapped up so fast she almost hit the roof. The man turned, his face going pale. I didn't wait. I yanked the door open. What the hell is this? Mom looked like she was going to pass out. George, what are you doing here? The man's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He was older, maybe late 50s, with neatly combed hair and a well-pressed shirt. He looked like someone's dad. Someone's husband. Who the hell is this? I asked again. Mom didn't answer. But the man did. I'm her boss. I felt my stomach drop. Her what? Mom covered her face. Oh my God! But it was too late. The guy, her boss, looked guilty as hell. He wasn't lying. Holy shit. I turned to Mom, my voice sharp. How long? She still didn't answer. The guy swallowed hard. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, Almost 2 years. My whole body went numb. I heard Ethan let out a quiet, stunned, "What the fuck?" behind me, but I couldn't look away from her. 2 years. Rebecca had been cheating for 6 months, and I had been disgusted. But Mom? Mom had been doing it for 2 years. I stepped back, shaking my head. Does Dad know? Mom still wouldn't look at me. That was answer enough. And suddenly, I realized something even worse. The way she had so quickly defended Rebecca. The way she had looked at me with disgust, like I was the villain for exposing it. She wasn't just protecting her daughter. She was protecting herself. Mom sat there, frozen. She didn't speak, didn't move. Just stared at the dashboard like if she ignored me long enough, I'd disappear. Ethan broke the silence. 2 years? His voice was shaking. You've been cheating on Dad for 2 years? Mom flinched like he had slapped her. Her boss, this random, pathetic-looking guy, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Look, I should probably go. Yeah, I snapped. You should. He fumbled with the door handle and practically fell out of the car. He didn't even look back as he scurried off like a cockroach when the lights come on. Then it was just us. Mom sighed and ran a hand through her hair. I never wanted you to find out like this. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Like this? Mom, there's no good way to find out your mother's been screwing her boss behind Dad's back for 2 years. She winced. Lower your voice. Why? Ethan exploded. So no one else finds out? So we can just pretend everything is fine like you've been doing? Mom finally looked at us, her expression turning cold. You don't understand marriage. Ethan let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oh, I think I understand it just fine. She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. Marriage is complicated. You don't know what it's like to be with someone for 30 years, to feel trapped. I cut her off. Don't. She blinked. Don't what? Don't try to justify it. My voice was flat. I don't care if you were unhappy. I don't care if you felt trapped. You had a choice. You could have left Dad. You could have told him. But instead you lied. For 2 years. Mom shook her head. You don't understand. This, she gestured vaguely. This gave me space to breathe. Ethan made a choking noise. Are you serious? Cheating gave you space to breathe? She crossed her arms. It saved my marriage. I felt my blood turn ice cold. Saved your marriage? I repeated slowly. Mom nodded. Yes. Without it, I would have left your father a long time ago. But this let me stay. Ethan and I just stared at her. Then Ethan turned to me, his voice quiet but deadly. Tell her. Mom frowned. Tell me what? I hesitated. Then I realized, why the hell was I hesitating? I straightened, looked her right in the eye and said, Rebecca cheated on Chris. Mom's whole body stiffened. With the neighbor, Ethan added. For 6 months. Silence. Mom's face twitched. That's different. I let out a disbelieving laugh. How? She looked flustered, like she was scrambling for an excuse. Because Rebecca is young. She made a mistake. Oh, but you didn't? Ethan shot back. Mom glared at him. It's not the same thing. I folded my arms. Tell that to Dad. The second I said it, her entire demeanor changed. Her face went pale. She actually looked scared now. You're not telling your father, she said quickly. I tilted my head. Why not? I mean, if it saved your marriage, wouldn't he be grateful? Her jaw clenched. That's not funny. I took a step closer. You know what else isn't funny? Watching Dad work his ass off for our family while you run around behind his back with some pathetic excuse for a man. You disgust me. She flinched. Then, for the first time, she looked desperate. Please, she said softly. Don't tell him. I studied her. This was not the same woman who had sat at that dinner table last night, calling me pathetic. This was not the same woman who had defended Rebecca without hesitation. This was a woman who was terrified. And it made me realize something. She wasn't afraid of losing Dad. She was afraid of what would happen if Dad found out who she really was. I had never seen Mom afraid before. Angry? Sure. Disappointed? All the time. But this was different. She wasn't scared of losing Dad. She was scared of him knowing. Ethan and I stood there, waiting for her to say something. To justify it. To beg. To explain. But she didn't. She just folded her arms and said, "If you tell him, you'll destroy this family." I laughed. A sharp, humorless laugh. "Mom, this family is already destroyed." Ethan shook his head. "You and Rebecca did that all on your own." Mom's face hardened. "If you tell him, you'll break his heart." "You already did." I shot back. She flinched. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then I made my decision. I pulled out my phone. Mom's eyes widened. "George!" I ignored her. I scrolled to Dad's name and pressed call. Mom lunged forward. "No! Don't!" I stepped back. She grabbed for my phone, but I yanked it out of her reach. Dad picked up on the second ring. "Hey, son! What's up?" I took a deep breath. Ethan gave me a sharp nod. Then I said the words that would change everything. "Dad, we need to talk. It's about Mom." Mom collapsed onto the hood of her car. She actually collapsed, her hand covering her mouth, like she had just watched her world go up in flames. Because she had. The next few weeks were chaos. Dad was destroyed. I had never seen him cry before, but when Ethan and I sat him down and told him the truth, he just sat there, staring at the floor, his whole body shaking. Then, without a word, he got up, grabbed his keys, and left. 2 days later, he filed for divorce. Rebecca? She tried calling Chris, tried begging him to take her back. He blocked her. She showed up at his job crying, and security had to escort her out. She moved back in with Mom. The two of them, sitting in that big empty house, blaming me for everything. Ethan and I? We stayed close with Dad. And then, the final twist. A week after Dad left, he called me and said, "Son, I need you to hear something." Then he put the phone on speaker. Mom's voice came through the line. "You have to forgive me. I only did it because I was miserable with you. And if you really loved me, you'd understand." Dad hung up. "That's all I needed to hear," he said. Then, for the first time in my life, he laughed. A real, genuine laugh. And that's when I knew. Dad was going to be just fine. Update. So, I didn't think I'd be back with an update, but here we are. If you didn't read my original post, here's the short version. My sister, Rebecca, was cheating on her husband with a neighbor. I caught her at a family dinner, and my mom went ballistic not because of the affair, but because I had ruined everything. It turned out that Mom had been cheating on my dad with her boss for 2 years. Ethan, my younger brother, and I told Dad, and he immediately filed for divorce. Rebecca got dumped, moved back in with Mom, and they both decided I was the bad guy. Cool. Caught up? Great. Well, here's where things take a turn. A few days after Dad left, I started getting texts from an unknown number. Weird, cryptic stuff like, "You should have kept your mouth shut," and "This isn't over." At first I thought it was Rebecca being dramatic, but then I got a message that sent a shiver down my spine. It was an address. My home address. I showed it to Ethan and he went pale. "Dude, this is getting creepy." No kidding. I blocked the number, but the messages kept coming from different people. I knew Rebecca was upset, but this didn't seem like her style. If anything, she was the type to cry and throw tantrums, not send anonymous threats. Then, 2 nights ago, I was out getting dinner when Ethan called me, his voice shaking. "Dude, Dad's car got trashed." I rushed over, and sure enough, Dad's car had been badly keyed. Deep scratches all along the doors, the words homewrecker carved into the hood. Dad just stood there staring at it. Then he sighed and said, "Figures." We all knew who it was. Mom and Rebecca denied it, of course. Why would we do such a childish thing? Mom said, all innocent. Rebecca even had the audacity to act offended. You think I have time for this? Dad just shook his head. If it wasn't you, it was someone you told. And that's when I realized Mom and Rebecca weren't just sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. They were out there, playing the victims, spinning the story their way. And people believed them. I found out through a mutual friend that Mom had been telling all our relatives that Dad was the one who left her. That I was a bitter, jealous brother who wanted to ruin Rebecca's life. That Ethan had been brainwashed by me. It was insane. And the worst part? Some of them sided with her. Aunt Linda, one of Mom's sisters, called me and actually yelled at me. How dare you do this to your mother? She snapped. She gave you everything. I hung up on her. Dad, Ethan and I decided we had to back off. Let her drown in her own mess. But before we could, another bombshell dropped. Rebecca was pregnant. Yup. She just announced it on the family group chat like it was some amazing news. But there's one little problem. She has no idea who the father is. It could be Chris. Or the neighbor. Or someone else entirely. The group chat exploded. Chris's mom jumped in, absolutely furious. Rebecca was suddenly playing the victim, saying she was so stressed out and needed support, not judgment. Mom, of course, defended her. And Dad? He just texted one thing before leaving the chat. Good luck. Legend. So yeah? That's where we are. Rebecca is spiraling, Mom is still bitter, and Ethan and I are just watching it all burn. I'll update if anything else happens. But at this rate? I kind of hope it doesn't.